Hey Internet, I'm Simon Squibb, your host at the Good Luck Club podcast. Our mission is to help anybody out there that's thinking of starting a business do just that. Equally, if you've started a business and are struggling, maybe you need a little bit of inspiration and knowledge. And we hope by interviewing some of the world's most successful entrepreneurs and change makers that you'll get the knowledge you need to become the person you want and turn your business into that dream company. I personally have started 17 companies from scratch and have invested in over 65 startups. When I sat down and analysed how I did it, I discovered a secret. It was all luck. I'm here to tell you, in my opinion, without luck, it ain't gonna work. Each week, I will discuss with my guests this theory and see if luck is a skill as I feel it is. I hope you enjoy our episode this week. Welcome to the Good Luck Club podcast. My guest today is Antoine Vatar, founder and CEO of Albert Technologies. Antoine, welcome.
Hello. Thank you very much, Simon.
Thanks for being here. Do you mind starting off by telling our audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes, sure. So I think, first of all, what I can say is that I am not an entrepreneur. I started my career in a very, very traditional way for a retail company, a French luxury brand. First in Paris, then in the Middle East. I was studying in Canada, and my very dream was to be a corporate guy, do my career in a stable company, and that was I was raised for, I guess. And then I moved to Hong Kong, created this company out of a consulting contract. So all started same in a pretty stable way. When I moved to Hong Kong, it was not really an entrepreneurial adventure. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to act on the challenges I had, but I started on a video consulting contract, and it then became a company. So now I think people see me as an entrepreneur, but I think still myself, I sometimes struggle to see myself as an entrepreneur because it was never a path I really chose. And I'm always wondering what it would be if I was not having a company today, because I discovered years after years what it was, but it was not the path I chose, really.
That's a fascinating point. Do you feel even now that you're not an entrepreneur? You mentioned you still sometimes don't feel that way. Is that still there?
I see myself more as a problem solver rather than a real entrepreneur. You know, when I discuss with peers or people I meet that are entrepreneur and consider themselves as entrepreneur, I don't really relate to that. I never wanted to have my own company. I'm very happy about what I'm doing at the moment. I'm really proud of what we're achieving, and I think we're solving problems. But I think when this adventure will have to take a next step, I still don't know if I will literally have a new company because I'm made to have companies and to build companies, or if I'll just be very happy to go back to corporate. Wow,
I don't hear that story very often. Often when people are out, let's say, of the matrix, they have their own business. Going back is a no way kind of scenario. But that's interesting. I think it's a fresh approach. Actually, I like the point. How long have you been running your own business?
It's going to be 6 years now. So the first 2 years were really about the consulting. So I tried the different things because there was opportunity on the way. The Albert really came out of this consulting contract. So I had a problem with a client. I needed to solve it, which was how to digitalize employee experience and content distribution. At that time, solely for training. So then I developed a platform to answer that problem. And this platform became my company.
Do you think going to Hong Kong gave you this inspiration? Did you go there for the consultancy work, or did you go there and then get the consultancy work?
No, I got the consultancy to go to Hong Kong. I was living in Dubai at that time, and I was always attracted to Asia. And I was lucky enough to found someone in Dubai who was actually moving business to Hong Kong. We discussed opportunities, and I decided to move, and that was it. And then I never left.
And 6 years down the road, do you feel like your business is working? Has it solved the problem you're talking about?
Yes, I would say it's been a ride. We're not solving the same problem as we started. We're solving this problem and different problems. I think the whole idea about Albert is really to be user oriented. So to find what are the needs of our user within the enterprise and to find solutions for them. So we just decided to add a chat platform because during COVID it was a mess with WhatsApp, WeChat, and everything. So we were not the chat platform at the beginning, but now we have a chat function. Why? Because our user need it. And my deep belief is that in the enterprise world at the moment, we don't think consumer. When what we don't realize is that the guy who uses Instagram and WeChat the next minute after is going to use your enterprise tech. So if it doesn't look as good as what he's using in his day-to-day life, it's not going to work, and your retention rate is going to be horrible. So that's the mission today. So it's not the same problem, but we are targeting the same audience, and we're trying to understand them better and better every day to offer them solutions that actually work for them.
And your background is luxury brands, like you worked with DIOR in the past, and I think luxury and technology is still the combination of those two feels not natural. How do you perceive
My God, no, it's not. No, I was luxury was the problem. Technology was the mean. I've always been interested in technology. I'm not a developer myself. I'm just a bit geeky on the edges. It's just, I strongly believe that technology should be useful for people. I'm always looking for technology that can help my life, being on health, being on work, being on whatever is useful. And I wanted to do the same. And that was the way. Mobile, I did a mobile app because basically my salespeople were in like 6 or 7 different countries, didn't have computers. They just had mobile. So I was like, okay, we need to do something for mobile. And that's how I got into technology. And I hope this is going to change in the years to come. And we're going to be able to change as well, to really adapt to the needs of the user, not develop technology for technology, but really for a purpose.
And how do you get clients today? What's the process of your business model?
But we're changing. We're growing. We're still small, but we're growing. We've been mostly relying on my network, direct network, indirect network, and then we've been lucky for recommendations. Now we're really starting to have, hopefully in 2020, a proper digital strategy to have like online onboarding and being able to have much more users use the platform.
It seems to me that a lot of the digital businesses right now are somewhat benefiting from the COVID nightmare. Do you see a positive in it all for you?
Yes, it was actually. It's honestly, I would not have said that in the first months because I was about to cry. But after that, yes, because it's all about reaching out to users in a proper way. And honestly, it helped us as well transform the business. We've been doing a lot of content production, translation in the last 2-3 years. That was part of our business. That was more the agency part. And I realized pretty quickly that we could not have an efficient agency-like model as well as an efficient technology development company. So COVID made it all work. Okay, we need to focus on what is our laser focus, which was the content distribution platform and the audience retention. So we just got rid of every rest of the content and translation we had in-house and focused solely on technology. So in the beginning, honestly, when I saw COVID coming, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be horrible. But in the end, it was a blessing because it helped us transform once again. We saw that it really helped our client already equipped with the product to reach out to the team and to stay connected in a way that was much less noisy that WeChat, WhatsApp, and everything, and all the traditional content distribution channel would be.
And how do you see data as a tool within the business? Is it an asset? How do you view this whole concept around the Apple model versus, say, the Google model on data?
Yes, for us, data is all about the user journey. If we don't get data, analyze data from our users, we can't build a platform that is good for them. We need to understand on a daily basis why our user use the platform, how they use it, what do they prefer, where do they drop? Everything that gives us insight on how to make the experience better. After we have a strong policy of privacy, anyway, we work for corporates, so the data belongs to them, and we don't communicate anything. We're also pretty, I would say, not secretive, but that was one of the part of the luxury industry is that no one wants to know who works with, which was part of the deal from the beginning. So data has always been, for me, it's a personal belief that data should be private, but should be used to enhance the user experience. If we look at the companies like Facebook, everyone was happy because it was free, but no one realized at the beginning it was free because they were the product. And I don't want that to happen within our company. Really, the data that we collect from the user should be to help the user get a better experience in enterprise.
I think the point you're mentioning there, just for the people listening, again, I think even today people don't realize this, that Facebook, if you're giving someone something for free, you're the product. What you just said there is quite important. I think when people still think that they're the client when they're getting this Facebook service for free, they don't understand, of course, their data is the product and therefore they are the product. So, but yeah, I mean, I hear you. I mean, correlating that when you're working with brands, it's quite tricky, right? Because everyone has a slightly different view. But giving people an opt-in and opt-out seems to be the way. Like, if you give me your data, I'll give you this free, but I'll be using your data, taking the name off, and then leveraging the data insights to sell or make money, right? That's the model that seems to be coming through the other side now. Do you see that?
I think people need to realize the value of the data, and we need to reverse engineering the relationship we have with our customer. Make it very clear what we collect, why we collect it, and what they can do with it, and actually the power of the information, because in the end, data is money. People don't realize it because it's been in the shadow for so many years. Companies have taken advantage of it. And for me, to be a trustable company, we need to be clear about what we're doing with the data and how we use it to enhance the user experience and not to make money out of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of businesses around the world that are using data within a medical environment, and that seems to be able to predict illnesses, disease like COVID, where it is. I mean, of course, there's track tracing, app tracing. So it's getting that balance, isn't it? And so, yeah, I'm sure you're at the cutting edge of it, it sounds like. So you've got to really understand what to do with the data and make sure customers understand.
Yes, I think it's all about the question of trust. I have an Apple Watch that I wear day and night, and it tracks my heart rate, my sleep rate, everything about me, everywhere I go, whatever I do, because I trust Apple to keep my data safe. Am I right to do it? I don't know. But they managed to build this trust that I have in them, and hopefully they will respect it.
Well, only takes one data breach for that to all change, doesn't it? If someone hacks into into everyone's iPhone or watch, and suddenly all that data's out there in the world, I guess that's the thing they're probably working very hard to stop. I noticed your background is not, as you mentioned earlier as well, is not a technology-focused background as such. But you mentioned you're a geek. What's your fascination with technology, and where do you see it all going in the luxury space in particular?
For me, it's all about making my life easier. So I really look at technology that can enhance my daily life, which means, when I need to track food, I use technology to track food, or my heart rate. I understood a lot about myself in the last 2 years. I've been using an Apple Watch. I'm tracking my sleep as well for a while because, I had sleeping problems, and I was like, okay, how can I solve this? And technology could help me. So I did it. So that's my relationship with technology. I've never been a coder. I'm not really interested in coding. I'm more the Google search type of geek. If I have a problem, I'm going to search for it. And if there is a technology that exists for it, I'm going to use it, try it. And I try so many things because to me, we need the help of technology to do things that we could not do on an everyday life. I mean, having my heart rate censored when I do my fitness to adapt to my fitness level is fantastic, and I could not carry a heart monitor just to do it, or having a doctor by my side. So it's to me, it's the beauty of technology.
Well, I always like to understand the entrepreneur behind the business, and I do find your story fascinating around the concept you don't see yourself as an entrepreneur, even though you've been 6 years running your own business. Are you a sole founder?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right. Okay. And do you feel the effects of that? Do you sometimes wish you had a partner in the business?
Oh yes, I wish. It's just, I was not used to be the sole decider. I think I tend to take actions. Even back when I was working at DIOR, I would take initiative, but I would have the resources and I would have people to validate and to give me the confidence that my decisions could be right, But now it's been 6 years that every decision I take has an impact and no one is co-signing. Which means that if I'm going to the wall, I'm going to go to the wall, or I'm going to have to be the one realizing just before the turn that I have to turn, otherwise I'm taking the wall. And honestly, I have been very close to the wall a few times. So sometimes it's a bit hard to just be in your own brain. I have to be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde at the same time, talking to myself and saying, Antoine, are you making a good decision? Or Antoine, is this decision just going to make everything go to hell? Yes.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I know what you mean. It's not easy being a sole founder. Do you think that, going forward, do you feel like, have you looked at getting a co-founder in the past? Is that something you've explored?
I have, but it's not been successful. I think it's the biggest challenge I had in finding a co-founder is to really have aligned mindset, but different skills. I tend to find people with a shared mindset, but also similar skills, or people with very different skills, but a totally different mindset. Technology was the hardest. Everyone was like, you have a technology called business, then hire a CTO. But I am business oriented, and most CTO that I've met were very technology oriented. They would rather have a beautiful technology than clients with business working, not really business, but I mean, my first objective is to answer business needs, not really to go deep into AI, for instance. Yes, we use machine learning, but we're not going to spend years developing machine learning if we don't really have a business problem to solve. So that's how it was a bit challenging.
And as far as funding your business is concerned, is this self-funded from the consultancy work, or how have you built this up?
Private investment.
Okay.
From different parties. So no VC at the moment. I think that's the part where I'm not an entrepreneur at all. I think I've been caught in a wave of VC funding, big rounds of investments, and I've been managing my business a bit more like a restaurant, saying, okay, we have money coming in, I have extra, can we invest? And then because it was technological, basically I had some financial needs at some point, which I found on my way. Partners, we have technological partners who invested in the company, content partners who invested in the company, private people, family offices I've met on the way, who decided to invest in the company quite reasonably. And it's always been one of my fights, one for which I would have loved to have a co-founder, more familiar with these financial things, more familiar with the startup environment, with the VC environment, because that was not my thing. And as you know it, because you've been through it, when what you love is really what you do best and what you wake up for in the morning. And honestly, I don't really wake up for VC money. So I didn't have the drive enough to, I think, now I'm more playing the exercise because I have to, because I am a founder. And at the end, if we want to have a successful company up to competition, we have to compete in every area of the business. And VC funding is one of these big areas if you want to compete on larger markets.
Anyway, let me get back on track. So maybe I'll change track a bit. Just we can cut from this point. Just tell me a little bit about your family background. Were your family in any way entrepreneurs?
No.
No, you can't hear me. You can't. You can hear me, but no family members were entrepreneurs. Oh, sorry.
No.
I thought the technology was
no.
I feel like I need to ask that question again now. So asking. So anybody in your family entrepreneurial?
Not at all. I come from a very traditional family from France, and no one really traveled or created businesses or so. No, it's I was a bit of the the weird boy doing that. And actually, when I left LVMH, it was all about like, what the hell are you doing? I mean, you have the best job on earth and you have a career in front of you. Why would you move to Hong Kong to like not earn money and die on the bridges?
For anyone listening to this just on audio, you have to see Antoine's face right now. It literally is like, it's got a screwed up face look, which clearly is a face he's developed talking to his family about his entrepreneurial journey. But
now it's getting better, I have to say.
But that's interesting when you talk at the beginning of the podcast about how you don't see yourself as an entrepreneur. It feels like, in a way, it's not, like you say, not what your parents were expecting, not what your family was expecting, and not what you were expecting. So, but what is an entrepreneur anyway? I mean, the definition of an entrepreneur, what is it in your mind?
I think it touches so many areas in life. One of the big, I love to exchange with students from my university back in Canada and anyone who wants to discuss, because I'm an entrepreneur, this makes new generation dream. And I have them on the phone and they ask me, okay, so you're an entrepreneur. I want to be an entrepreneur. How do I do that? And often I ask, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Because you don't become an entrepreneur. You just realize. To me, it's my belief that one day you realize that you're an entrepreneur and not decide to be and say, I'm going to invent the new coffee spoon, be a millionaire, and be Mark Zuckerberg. No, it's just the society is, and I'm a bit sad about that. And not sad, but, from the day I was at school, which was not so long ago, there was not even an entrepreneurship program at school. And within the 10 years happened, now everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Everyone wanted to work for Total or Christian Dior or Capgemini or whatever, not at all build companies. And suddenly everyone wants to become an entrepreneur and become an entrepreneur straight from school. And often what I say is that if I wasn't working for Dior, I wouldn't have identified the problem that led me to actually build this company, because this company was not at all about being my own boss. Because honestly, I don't like being my own boss and I would like to be boss sometime. It's more about creating tools that I've seen an application when I was in corporate and trying to help this corporate succeed.
I hear you. I think the process of being an entrepreneur has been a little bit glamorized by, say the Mark Zuckerbergs of this world at university, drops out, starts a company, becomes Facebook. Google guys start a company in the garage, becomes Google. So it's a little bit been simplified, hasn't it? And so what you're saying now, I think, is a very good point, that there is a process to doing anything. And so you if you hadn't worked at Dior, I think that's a really good point. If you hadn't worked at Dior, you wouldn't have the insights you have today to build the business you're building today. So it's not about becoming an entrepreneur for the sake of being an entrepreneur. You're like you said at the beginning, you're filling a gap, a problem. You're solving a problem, really.
Yeah, and I think what the society needs more is to create entrepreneurship within companies, because these companies need to change and they have the resources. So if they allows you, if I could have done, honestly, I tried when I was working for corporates. But the thing is that you're blocking hierarchies in politics, in decisions, which I totally understand because that's the way it's done. But at some point, if you don't foster you guys to try and change your business, who is changing it?
Well, that's why they're probably using firms like yourselves, right? I mean, there's businesses out there that can disrupt from the outside. It's the whole, you can't put a fire out in a house from the inside sort of concept.
Yeah, it depends. I think the mentalities are changing, and COVID helped a lot because people realized they needed to be more agile. And COVID really put a focus on the problems and that we had to solve them fast. But otherwise, you still see very big companies with a lot of resources turning to very well-known consultants for a project that lasts 2 or 3 years, when they don't realize that the moment they decide on the technology, the time is going to be delivered is going to be outdated already, which is still a lot the case within companies. But I'm seeing it changing, and I'm really happy about that, because I think the whole startup things made companies realize that people had good ideas, and no matter their age, they could actually have an impact on the business. Because when you see young people succeed and actually help very old companies, you're like, makes the HR realize that these people, they might be in-house already and we could use their potential to actually make the company thrive instead of seeing them go to a startup.
Did DIOR try to keep you?
No.
There you go. Sometimes they see it as a part of the process, isn't it? Oh, you're leaving, no problem. We'll just fill your seat with someone else. But I think you're highlighting something there that I do think big brands should think about, which is, hey, how can we? What can we do to accommodate you so you stay within our organization and do what you're going to do for yourself? Like you're a good example actually, because you say it yourself. You're not naturally someone that sees himself as an entrepreneur who wants to manage payroll, wants to manage cash flow. You just want to solve problems, right? So in a way, you would have been very happy to solve these problems with a brand like DIOR, but they clearly didn't give you that opportunity, right?
Yeah, or maybe I didn't ask properly as well. It's all about also channels of communications, people, and I see especially with. I mean, it's changing as well with younger generation. But I was not raised to speak my voice. I was raised to listen and to work, not to have a specific thinking or not to think outside of the box. God, no. I was more going toward the military or law than business, or even though a startup even worse. So we've not been raised as guys. I have something to say, and I'm going to say it. And if you don't listen to me, I'm going to walk out the door. You're just like, okay, bon, I think that would be good. Oh, you don't want to hear about this? Oh, well, okay, I'll just shut my mouth.
Wow, that's fascinating.
So I think there is responsibility on both sides.
You grew up in France, right?
Yes.
Anyone listening to this in Hong Kong, I would say the image of France is definitely free thinking, creative. You're projecting an image there that's slightly different to the maybe the misconception that people have of certain markets, right? Your education, it sounds like your education was, like you say, you sit and listen, but everyone in Asia, I'm pretty sure, will view France, and even myself, I live in England now, but I lived in Asia for 20 years. I perceive France as this very expressive place where people do say what they're thinking, to the point where sometimes it can be rude, right? So you're projecting or explaining a very different cultural background there than the one that's perceived.
I think not really, because French people complain a lot, but they are not heard a lot as well. It's very difficult, because I think there is a lot of free thinking in certain areas of life, and still a lot of very traditional structures in others area of life. And to me, there is the biggest hypocrisy of the French system is the difference in between the will to innovate and all people talking about changing, innovating, and the total block of actually the corporate structure, which is still so hierarchical that you can't do nothing. So everyone is saying we should do this, it will be wonderful that we do this, but no one does it. When it starts to sign the check and move on, no one is there.
What was your education like? Was your education sit and listen, or was there a lot more?
Amazing.
Really?
No, I think it was an awakening, actually. As I mentioned earlier, I come from a very traditional background. I've been raised in a small city in France. I was born in Brittany, so not the Paris kind of open mind, traveling people kind of ways. I literally escaped to Montreal for my university, and it was not only education in the sense of learning things to go to work. It was really being re-educated for life. I think maybe this entrepreneur spirit of doing things, just seeing that I could actually achieve things, because when you're in school in France, you sit, you listen, and then you go out. When I arrived in Montreal, I discovered a totally different way of thinking. That you had to prepare your things actually before, and you had to exchange when you were in your class, and you had to actually work with other people and do real what we call teamwork. So it totally changed my way of doing things, and it's all about during my college, I just discovered myself much more and kind of expanded my horizon. So I would never forget that.
It's interesting, because I'm always quite personally quite negative about university life, just from the debt that it leaves people with and the restrictions it can give people. So it's actually refreshing and nice to hear how going to Canada and going to university, that whole experience was positive for you.
Yes, I think I got lucky to end up in this university. It's just sometimes it's the luck in your life, and you're like, okay, wow, this is happening. I don't know where I'm going. I didn't know Canada at all, and I was like, just go. And it blew my mind. And people just brought me something different. We always say in France that traveling shapes the mind. It's not really traveling. It's just being with other people from different culture that are just not going to say yes to what you're thinking because they don't believe to the same cultural frame. And that's what I love in my life. What I love is to meet people that don't think the same way I do, because I'm learning so much. I mean, we have 4 or 5 years of university to learn, and then we're supposed to be on our own for the next 60. How come it's possible? So you can read all the books in the world. It's not the same, I'd rather hear someone tell me their take on the book, because that's where human brain and real intelligence and smart thinking happens. So that's what happened to me the first time in Montreal, and what I've kept traveling since, because I want people to tell me their vision of life, because it helps me build mine and understand better who I am and what I can do for the world.
Well, I'd like to have you back on the show. I feel it's only a short podcast as part of the Start Me Up Festival, and wanted just to highlight you and what you were doing out of Hong Kong. So thank you for coming on and sharing your story. But I think there's a deeper story there. I'd love to have you back on and talk about your entrepreneurial journey. Thank you so much for giving your time to the audience today. Thank you for sharing your insights, and we look forward to having you back on the show in the future.
Thank you so much for having me, Simon.
Thank you for listening to the Good Luck Club podcast. We know you have thousands of podcasts you could be listening to, and you've chosen us. We, of course, feel lucky. If you want to hear more, please go to thegoodluckpod.com or go to any of our social media pages and share with us your views, your insights, and any way that we can improve what we're doing to make it a better experience for you. We wish you the best of luck.